If you want to know the secrets of existence and the true meaning of life, I can't help you. But if you want some book recommendations, why not try reading the ones I wrote? If you're a fan of giant monster mayhem and anime weirdness, why not try Operation Red Dragon: The Kaiju Wars Part 1? If horror is more your style, you can't go wrong with The Occult Mafia. Those who enjoy their fantasy with a dark twist may be interested in Emerald of Maddox City. And if you're interested in shared universes, why not read all three? Hop on down to the description for links to all 3 books on Amazon. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omni viewer, and welcome to Genre Bender's Obscurities and Flawed Gems, where we look at the best stuff you've never heard of. Back in 2017, I was alerted to a Kickstarter campaign for an independent kaiju movie entitled Howl from Beyond the Fog. I did not back it at the time because back then I had even less money than I do now, and I was a little wary of Kickstarter at the time. That means I ultimately didn't receive any of the extra goodies that the backers received, and I have a few regrets about that, but what's done is done. Later in 2019, I went to G-Fest and saw the movie. Or rather, I saw an incomplete version that was screened there. And even though it was incomplete, I still was blown away by what I saw. What I felt was kind of similar to what I felt when I first saw footage from The Secret of Kells or Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal. It moved something within me that knew I had to see the rest of it. Well, thanks to SRS Cinema, a company that seems determined to be the distributor of obscure kaiju movies in the West, the film is finally available in its completed form on DVD. Time to see how it turned out.
The year is 1909, and A.G. is returning to his family home upon learning that his brother has died. After struggling to console his emotionally distant mother, A.G. accidentally discovers another resident on the property, his cousin Takiri, who is blind and publicly believed to be dead. She remains locked up, her existence unknown to the world, but she sneaks out to the nearby lake at night for a secret rendezvous. No, she's not meeting her lover. Rather, she's meeting Nebula, the lake monster who saved her from drowning and who, like her, is blind. Why is this creature so gentle towards the girl? And why must Takiri live like a prisoner? The answers could mean devastation for the village, especially when some men who seek ownership of the lake property take matters into their own hands.
Howl from Beyond the Fog apparently began its life as a fan adaptation of Ray Bradbury's short story The Foghorn, which also served as inspiration for The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. But just like Sam Raimi's vision of the Shadow eventually morphed into Darkman, this project became something else entirely.
A few elements remain, like Nebula's Foghorn-inspired roar, but this is otherwise a totally original piece.
The most obvious thing that sets Howl apart is the fact that it's conveyed entirely through the art of puppetry. And on this channel, we're quite fond of puppets.
Why?
But this is a very specific kind of puppetry, one deeply rooted in traditional Japanese theater.
What we see here is a style known as bunraku, which involves the use of carefully crafted articulated puppets. Bunraku is a very sophisticated form of puppetry, and the puppets themselves are usually sculpted to be as lifelike as possible, which can sometimes lead to an uncanny valley effect.
I suppose to a Westerner you might liken the style to if a marionette was mixed with a ventriloquist dummy, but even that feels like an oversimplification of a style that stretches all the way back to 16th century Osaka.
Unlike in the West, where puppetry is generally used for comedy and children's entertainment, bunraku is used to tell serious stories for an older audience, much like the No and Kabuki theatrical styles.
Now, of course, Howl from Beyond the Fog is not traditional bunraku.
We cannot see the puppeteers in the movie thanks to green screen techniques. The score has more than just a single shamisen, and each character has an individual voice as opposed to there being a single narrator describing the whole thing.
Still, the style is unmistakable, and this is the first time that it's been applied to the kaiju genre. The puppetry serves a much greater purpose than just being different. It also generates atmosphere.
In some ways, Howl from Beyond the Fog is structured more like a ghost story than a kaiju story, so a certain degree of eeriness is required for that to come across. Ergo, the puppets are designed to look lifelike, but their movements are slow and unnatural, and their proportions are just odd enough that they don't look entirely right to the eye.
This places the puppets squarely in the uncanny valley, and that can be unsettling most of the time, but in this case it works to the film's advantage rather than its detriment.
The eeriness of what we see creates the atmosphere of a ghost story, and that stems directly from the bunraku style. Had this movie been done with real people instead of puppets, I don't think it would be nearly as effective.
That atmosphere is enhanced by the music. It's not traditional bunraku music, but it fits what's on the screen. For the most part, anyway.
There are shamisen numbers included, some of which are diegetic, but most of the music is better described as dark ambient. There aren't many hooks or melodies to be found, but in tandem with the visuals, the score completes the atmosphere generated by the puppets and the cinematography.
There are even a few darkly melodic songs sprinkled throughout the film, and sung in English no less. Though I will say that one of these songs doesn't quite fit comfortably into the finished film.
That would be the song that plays over the climax, in which the singer sings lyrics that don't really fit what we're looking at. The song itself isn't bad per se, but it doesn't really make sense in context. Well, no film is perfect.
But what is a kaiju movie without its kaiju? In this case we have Nebula, and he stands out in all the right ways.
Visually, he cuts a striking silhouette with his old-fashioned plesiosaur appearance, which is distinctly its own. The finer details make him even more interesting. Rather than go for a traditional reptilian appearance, Nebula is textured to look like living earth. His skin has the color and texture of clay, and reeds seem to grow from his back as though he were an island.
These details help make him feel like more than just another dinosaur-type monster. He feels like something ethereal, at once natural and supernatural in ways that we as humans cannot fully comprehend.
Then again, from some angles, he looks like Jimmy Durante. I'm sorry, I just can't help but see a mild resemblance, but Jimmy Durante was a great entertainer, so there's no shame in that.
In terms of personality, Nebula is portrayed as a very gentle, even benevolent creature.
He saved Takiri when she was drowning prior to the film's events, and seemed to do so for no greater reason than because she needed help.
His kindness may not be obvious based on his outward appearance, although Jimmy Durante was considered one of the nicest people in Hollywood, but Takiri only knows him by his inner being, and she helps Eiji to see him that way as well.
When Nebula does go on his rampage, it's for a reason. He's out to avenge Takiri after she's nearly murdered.
Sure, he causes more death and destruction than is warranted, but he ultimately can't help that because, as mentioned, he's also blind like Takiri. Nebula's blindness is another feature that sets him apart from other kaiju, and it is played expertly in the film.
We are never outright told that he's blind, at least not according to the subtitles.
Quick aside, the subtitles on the SRS DVD are terrible, and I hope they improve quality control moving forward. Anyway, we're never told that Nebula is blind. Instead, we are shown that he's blind.
First of all, his pupils have a milky paleness to them, which is a traditional visual indicator of blindness, but the movie doesn't stop there. How Nebula interacts with the world also demonstrates his visual impairment. He locates the village by the sounds of warning bells and rockets rather than sight. He lunges for a person on the ground and misses. He walks right past this lookout tower without acknowledging it because he can't see it. His tail disposes of it, though. Even the scene where he destroys a bridge at the beginning, which I'm pretty sure is the cause of Eiji's brother's death, is portrayed as an unintentional act rather than a malicious one. This all makes it clear that Nebula is blind, and it's done without a single word spoken to that effect.
I have often found myself saying that different is not a synonym for good, especially when it comes to kaiju movies. Well, Howl from Beyond the Fog is a prime example of how you can be different in a good way.
It stands out with a unique creative choice, but it doesn't rely on that choice as a gimmick. Rather, the filmmakers made full use of the medium and put as much effort into the story as they put into the visuals.
Bunraku is a storyteller's theatrical style, after all, and the story really shines through.
This right here is a prime example of how to be artistic without being artsy-fartsy, and as such, this little crowdfunded short film deserves to stand alongside the best of what the major studios have delivered.
At present, there is no other film like Howl from Beyond the Fog, and you owe it to yourself to check it out. In short, it really lived up to the potential of that unfinished copy, and I'm glad I finally got to see it in full. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. On the bright side, the fact that I didn't back it on Kickstarter means I can't be accused of shilling. Still really wish I'd gotten a Nebula figure, though.
If you enjoyed what you just saw, hop on down to the description for links to Patreon, DeviantArt, and all of our social media, as well as links for Operation Red Dragon, The Kaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, and Emerald of Maddox City, 3 original novels I think you'll really enjoy. Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.